Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another live fan-in show on the Babbling channel. And today we are joined by West Ham Fan Zone and James from E20WHU, the YouTube channel himself. So, yeah, lads, we're going to discuss a few things, mainly the relegation battle that we've got coming up now. West Ham's back, which I'm sure you'll be delighted to hear we are going to speak about. And also maybe potential room for change this summer. A lot of news has been circling around stadium change of ownership, lots of different things. So we're going to break that down, get into it, and yeah, we'll see you guys with us. So, lads, let's just start with, the doom and gloom of West Ham at the moment. We are in a relegation battle. We find ourselves 18th in the league. Not many games left now, 12 games for us left to play. I think our games in hand are against Man City and Newcastle. So, again, tough games. How are you guys feeling going into crunch time now? A couple months left of the Premier League. How are you guys feeling?
Go on, James. You start
off. How do I feel about West Ham at the minute? Nervous is the word that springs to mind. I think next week's massive. Southampton, Newcastle, Fulham. I expect 7 points out of them games. I don't think we're going to win every game, but we need at least 7 if we're going to have a chance of staying up. It's a big week. It's a big week, mate. I think we've all got to come together. Whatever we think of Moyes and whether you're Moyes in, Moyes out, whatever, we've just got to come together as West Ham United and basically try and survive this season, really. Obviously, we're going to get into it more, but next week is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Mike? I know we spoke a lot on this channel about everything to do with the doom and gloom of West Ham, but trying to be positive, going into that match against Southampton at the weekend. Are you feeling a bit more confident? Or we've got pretty much our full squad back. Cornet could be ready for some more minutes, and it looks like Fabianski and Kufal could be returning as well. So we've got pretty much a fully fit squad now. So no excuses. Are we confident?
Confident we've got a squad that is nearing full fitness. That's my confidence. At the moment, I look at Southampton as a team that are willing to fight and battle. Not quite seen that as readily from our players. Maybe that's because they have some feelings that we do towards Moyes. But it's a massive game, right? So, as James says, every personal feeling goes aside for that 90 minutes. At the end of 90 minutes, you cheer, you boo, you leave without saying a word. It's your choice what you do. But, for that 90-minute period, we all have to be behind that team for the game on Sunday because it's, to do a cliche, it's a 6-pointer.
Yeah, I mean, there's been, again, rumours today coming out in the paper that this is Moyes' crunch day. If he doesn't win it, he could face the sack. How many times we've heard that this season, and that's been on repeat. So, Fanzone, over to you. How are you feeling about it all? Moyes is still in charge. Do you expect him to be in charge until the end of the season regardless, despite these rumours that are coming around?
Yeah, I do. To be honest, I don't think he's going anywhere until the end of the season, at least. I don't think there's any real want to get rid of him from the board. To be honest, I think they're quite happy with him, and I think that you see it when, every article that comes out, they say they're desperate for him to turn it around and get results because they want to keep him and stuff. So, yeah, I don't think he's going to go anywhere.
Do you think the whole board are behind him, or the main controlling share is behind him, and others are, if they could, would remove now or would have removed previously?
I think there's a certain person that would like to get rid of him if he had more of a say, but I think we'll have to be a bit patient on that one.
Yeah. I think overall it's just got past the point now that we're going to make a change. We had November to do it in the World Cup when people were calling for change then. Often, we lost to Palace and Leicester at home, I think, back to back. And we went into that break, knowing we needed to change something because it wasn't working and it was heading in one direction. Since then, it's been pretty much a 3-game cycle of, okay, you've got 3 games to get this many points. Okay, you got a draw at Leeds, so we'll give him a few more games. We beat, Everton. So it's kind of just been the odd win has kept Moyes in this job. And now we're not really in a situation where an odd win is going to keep us up because the teams around us, we can't rely on other teams to, drop points when we've still got to play a lot of those teams around us as well. We've got Southampton this week. We've still got to play the likes of Leeds. And, there are some tough games as well that we've got coming up. So how important do you think, focusing mainly on this match on Sunday against Southampton, how big is this match? Because so many times this season we've said, okay, this is a 3-pointer. We need to get the 3 points. There's no kind of other outcome. But if we lose on Sunday, is that it for us? Or do you still have faith in the remaining 11 games we would stay up? James, one for you maybe.
Listen, on Sunday we have to win that game. I don't think a point's good enough, really. I think if we go out and we go out attack, we blow Southampton out the water like we did with Forest. Will Sunday's game define us? No, because there's still be 11 games, and I believe the week is massive. Like, that week is huge. Like, them 3 games in that week, and especially with Fulham, with the back end of that week with no Mitrovic, no Silva as their manager on the sidelines, it could play into our hands. Sitting here in 10 days' time saying West Ham managed to turn it around and the season looks a little bit better, or we could turn around and say that we're right in deep stuck, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I want everyone to stick together on Sunday and focus on West Ham as a club. Like, the fan base is very, I ain't gonna say toxic because that's a wrong choice of word, but it's very up and down. Like, part of people are just looking to have a row. They just don't want Moyes at the club no more, which I understand now. I don't want Moyes here. But then some people are just rowing for the sake of rowing, which you just don't do, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to always get that on social media. But, Sloth, what about you? How are you feeling? I mean, we're coming back off the international break now. Regardless of the situation that's happening, how do you think the players are going to come back in response? Do you expect them to be motivated, or do you expect them to come into this match against Southampton and the week, like James said, kind of dreading what's about to come? Or do you think they'll be a bit more confident going into it?
I think they've got to be up for it. It's one of those games where, everything is on the line in terms of what realistically should be make or break for Moyes. And I know we've said, it could be too late to potentially make a change, but we're talking about 33 points after this game. If we lose, 33 points up for grabs. Now, I'm not saying we're going to go on that run, but that's just how it is. And look at Southampton. They appointed a manager who was completely out of his depth, completely against the grain of the club, and they made a change. And they are already seeing the results and the benefits of that. Because a couple of months ago, we were saying Southampton are down, they're out, they're completely gone. And now look, they're right back in it. So I think Southampton are going to be in a really good place. But the level of professionals that we have, we should be fired up for it. And we should be looking at the game and saying, right, we need to make a statement. This is a game that we need to put down a marker and turn it around. If we do lose, I think we're talking about a potential £1 billion decision. That's just beyond a point of it is billions of pounds worth of decisions, whether it's from TV money, whether it's if we get back up next season, if we go down, or whether it's just European TV money. It's a potentially massive decision. And sentimentality goes out the window when you're looking at that sort of money. If Moyes and Sullivan have such a good connection, and if he's willing to potentially risk £1 billion over 6 million, 10 million, whatever it might take to sack Moyes, there are huge questions that need to be asked. And we talked about how the atmosphere at the club is. I think that you're always going to have these vicious little animals on Twitter who like to have a dig and all that sort of thing. However, the fans need to make their feelings known. We're always going to be behind the club in terms of supporting them. But if we go 2-0 down, make it known that you're unhappy, because, you can say, oh, don't get on the players' back. But if you make this place a cauldron, if you make it a voice of anger, then I'm sorry, people have complained about the atmosphere for months and months and months. If you actually do something about it and voice that you're unhappy, 2-0 down, then you're probably going to make a change. At least someone, whether it's Krasinski, whether it's Sullivan, will hear that you're unhappy with the state of the club. And if you just go behind the team fully for 90 minutes singing, that is great. However, it's not going to make it clear how fans are feeling. So
I think they're aware of how the fans are feeling. I think there's been enough presence over the last however many years.
With the hat that Sullivan wears, he can't hear anything.
Not even But if you have such blinkers on, then it's like you're just marching toward the gallows with a big smile on your face, and you're almost just getting your neck stretched out already. It's absurd. If you're not willing to make these decisions, you shouldn't be in football.
Guys, I've got a question. So there's also been a lot of talk about players not agreeing with tactics. It was intimated in the video we've all watched from Claret and Booze that players are, to say they're animated at half time and at training towards Moyes is an understatement. Do you think there's maybe a point where it comes that those players have to maybe start taking some things into their own hands, such as essentially ignoring all tactics, working with the coaches separately and saying, look, we don't agree with what he's doing. Let's do some extra work and what we think that you guys think that we should be doing. And we're going to go with that in the game. Do you think the players need to, if they are fighting for the club and they're fighting for us as it's being said, do you think they need to now just say, regardless of what happens, Moyes, we ain't going to get sacked. You may drop one or two of us, but who cares? We're going to play for ourselves. We're going to play for our fans. And we're going to work with the other guys and basically ostracize you to do what we want and to work what we want. Obviously, there will be players maybe subbed in and out of a game if they're not doing what Moyes does. But do you think they need to just turn around and say, look, we're going to go down doing what you want us to do. It's time we take things into our hands. Because if they win, Moyes looks good. Moyes will quieten it down a little. But if they keep doing that and get some momentum, do you not think that's a better idea for the players to maybe revolt on the pitch and go out and do what they want to do as a collective and try and win a game positively? Or do you think they're better off sitting in the mire, which is essentially Moyes' tactics at the moment?
I don't see the point of that. I don't we talk about how player power has gone far too far so many times, whether it's at West Ham, whether it's the other way, but it's almost like a false equivalency, because if you give Moyes a win when the players are revolting against him and not listening to him, you're making him look good. It doesn't matter how you frame it. He's not going to be stood on the sideline, or he's not going to go out afterwards and go, I don't know what the players were doing. I didn't tell them to do that. Even though we've won the game, I'm really unhappy today. He's not that type of manager. He's going to go, oh yeah, I thought the lads showed great spirit and we won. It's a hard 3 points, and he's probably still not going to learn. So
I think also, just to say something here, I think a lot of these players have got to take accountability also. I think they get a big pass.
Accountability to actually say, what I'm being told to do is not working for me. I need to do like we've seen with Ben Rama. Ben Rama.
You can't just make up your own tactics on a match day and go.
Saying this, but let's remember, with Avram Grant, players did that. They turned around and said,
and we went down though.
Yeah, no, but our form picked up when they turned around. This is a pile of shit. Let's actually have a go. The same happened with Alan Derbyshire. The players,
even the players though, like I think we'd all agree, some of these players have got to take accountability.
What Moyes is doing. I understand where you guys are coming from, but we're also saying we can't go against the manager. Why? The manager's doing shit.
What are the players going to collectively come together and do so differently? Like, is they, like James is saying, they need to take responsibility as well.
They need to play to their strengths, for God's sake. Like, they're not even allowed to go and attack. They can't be open. Like, look at Ben Rama. Ben Rama is pretty much set aside what Moyes is doing. He's playing to a point where he's doing what he does. And now Moyes knows he can't drop him, because if he drops him, not only is he going to get shit for it, he knows that he's actually losing a player that is now playing to a level that's actually getting something out of a game, because he's pretty much ignoring, not all of it, but he's pretty much doing his own thing in games. And sometimes the players just need to take a bit more responsibility, a bit more like, I need to do what I need to do to get on in this.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but you just can't go against who's in charge, no matter who it is. We lost fan zone for a second. He's back in, I think. Let's get him back in. Technical problem. We'll get you back in a second, fan zone, if you can hear. But there we go. Yeah, I think you can't just kind of have that in and amongst the club. Like, I know it's at the moment it's pretty poor to be in amongst it. But you can't have players then pulling coaches aside, separate from Moyes, trying to say, can we try something else a bit different? Like, you still have to listen to the manager, regardless of who's in charge.
What I don't understand is, why should we not have players turning around to the coaching staff and saying, look, I don't think this is working for me. Can we work on something? Can we work on something as a group? Can we work on some different patterns? I just want to say, that just sounds like they're just accepting failure. Because
I understand that. I understand what people are saying, but there has been missed chances this year that Moyes can't really be blamed for.
I understand that. I'm also saying that there are times where his tactics are so negative. And you can
I agree on that.
Players want to go for it. Look at the Brighton game. Players were embarrassed. They wanted to play do something different, and they weren't allowed. Against Tottenham, clearly they wanted to go for that game. But again, they had to sit in this formation and this tactic.
Let's hear what Fanzone's going to say. All right, because I'm quite interested to hear if my views align with a few others.
I mean, sorry, it's a difficult one. I mean, with the players, I mean, they can't really just take things into their own hand and go against him. But I don't know. It's just it's a tough one to answer, to be honest.
I think if you're going to look at doing that, what needs to happen is a group of players like Declan Rice, like Cresswell, whoever it may be, need to go to the board. They need to go to Sullivan, and they need to say, "This isn't working. He's lost the dressing room, and I think it's run its course." That's what needs to happen now.
Moyes' favourites need to do that sort of thing.
Yeah. Now look, I think we're talking about failures, and it's a really difficult one to quantify on the pitch. You know, the players do need to take accountability, but then we also need to look at the entire setup at the club and who makes the decisions. Now, I'm going to go back to the January window last year. We had a season-defining window when a manager looked at the fact that we had one senior striker at the club and thought, yeah, I'm going to compete on all fronts with one senior striker. That should be ringing alarm bells. And it's an issue at multiple levels of the club, but it's one that players can talk to the owners of the club. We know that happens. And if someone like Declan Rice goes, look, I'm leaving at the end of the season, whatever happens. However, you can either get 50 or 60 million pounds for me if we get relegated, or we stay up when you change manager and we get 120 million pounds. What do we realistically think Sullivan is going to do?
I mean, the problem is the players don't have as much contact with Sullivan. I think when they had contact with the board, it was contact with David Gold. He's gone. So having that kind of fatherly figure, or that, you know, that figure that comes in from the board, that I know some people do look at him as a fatherly figure, I know, James, but, you know, having that figure that the players feel they can go talk to at a board level, that is also would frequently turn up to training, is no longer there.
I mean, Mike, at Birmingham, actually, I remember I interviewed someone that was captain when they were at Birmingham, and he said that, you know, they didn't speak to Sullivan at all. Everything they went through was actually through Karen Brady at the time, and she was the one that was kind of communicating between the two.
And if so conduit to the board, you ain't getting nowhere.
Then you go to Kretzinski, don't you? You go to the Czech lads and you go, look, have you got a line to Kretzinski? Because, you know, let's face it, they do. They will have his number because they've played. I think
the issues right now are just so far away from everything to do with that. We just need to focus on football.
Kretzinski has wanted Moyes out for a long time, a long time. But the problem is he doesn't have the final say. Sullivan does. And I personally think, I don't know about you lads, but I personally think Sullivan don't want to lose face by sacking Moyes. Don't forget he sacked him once and it didn't work out. And I think deep down he's like, I don't want to do that again, sort of thing. Do you know what I'm saying?
But you're gonna lose a lot more face if you get relegated. You're going to.
I agree. I agree. He's gambling. Right? He's gambling with West Ham, Sullivan. And I think we can all agree on that right now. The problem is with it at present. If you look at the table, one win shoots us to 12th, and it looks a bit better than how it actually is. Like I've seen things on social media, things that I do on my channel, and people are saying that we're cut adrift. We're not cut adrift just yet. Like West Ham have been in worse places than this, than what we are in right now. But Sullivan pulls the strings at the end of the day. And listen, everyone can point at Moyes, but Sullivan is the kingpin of the situation. Until he is toppled, then it's always going to be the same.
I think the main problem was that, like you mentioned, now it's a gamble whether we stick or twist either way. Like this should have been done in January, in November, when it was less of a risk and we had so many more games to play. Now we've got 12 Premier League matches left. If we get rid of Moyes, it's still a massive gamble, and to be fair, it is, because we don't know who we're going to bring in, and we don't know how things are going to change in that sense. We might get the bounce that people like to refer to, but we might bring in someone worse than Moyes, and then we're just in a situation where we're down.
We're talking about 12 games of football here. We're talking about the fact that if you get a bounce, realistically, that could be 3 or 4 games in which you win in that. It's 12 extra points. And, you know, it might not necessarily turn your season around. However, a couple of wins in that short space of time can boost the squad. It can boost the fan base. Now, at the moment, you are still dealing with a very divided fan base. Get a couple of wins and suddenly they'll be right back behind you. However, keep Moyes in charge. You're still going to have people going, is he good enough? Is he going to take us further? And I keep reverting back to it, but you have a man in charge who was bragging about his war chest and transfer budget, by all accounts, left it till late on in the window to try and sign Darwin Núñez as an alternative to players we already missed out on. And you cannot have someone at the helm of the club making decisions at the whim and drop of a hat. It is absolutely absurd. So do I think that he deserves to keep his job? I think I've made it pretty clear. However, it's a case of we need to make a change. And this X mentioned something on his podcast the other week, how if he wins the Conference League and we finish 12th, the board will be very happy with that. Well, you cannot be happy. You cannot be happy.
West Ham fans would be happy with that, though, wouldn't they?
No, but you cannot be happy with how we've performed throughout this season so far. Now, you can
understand that. I understand that what you're saying. I really do, yeah, because we haven't performed well. But if someone would have said to you at the start of the season, West Ham finished 10th and win the conference, I think all of us would have accepted that.
Yeah, but that's ignoring the idea that we're in a relegation for part of that season.
We've also worked to the assumption that we played as we did in the last 2 seasons, and there was maybe some tricky results or injuries and so on. So we would have probably gone on, well, yeah, that sounds fair.
Well, no one would have said we would have finished 7th again this season.
Well, look,
there's 3 seasons in a row.
There's a big difference between coasting along at 7th or, pushing for the top half and then finishing 12th. If you win the conference, then there is constant relegation fear and then scraping 12th place because it's tight at the bottom.
The outcome's still the same, Sloth.
No, but you're missing my point.
No, I get your point. I get your point because it's the performances that you're looking at throughout that season, and that doesn't bode well for the future.
Let's reframe it. You finish 12th, and you win Europa Conference. So in essence, that will be deemed a successful season because it's a first trophy in about 30 years, whatever. But on top of that, you have player unrest. Coaches seemingly unhappy. You have supporters that are been unhappy for large swathes of the season, and you've had a manager who struggled to implement and bring in players over the course of a season. And the following year, you have to bring in just as many, if not more. Now, with all that in mind, I'm going to start with fan zone. If you were in charge, would you accept that manager who got you that season, and you can say despite all of those issues, he managed that, or you can say he was the catalyst for all of that. How would you view that as keeping the manager? Would you want to keep them on? Or would you put in some very heavy levies against him if he does stay? Or would you just be saying, thank you very much, go off into the sunset, here's a payoff on your last year, and we're going to go in a different direction? Because potentially we also may have another board. So a new direction might be the idea. Fans on.
Yeah, I think I would probably let him go. Like regardless of what happens, I think I'd probably let him go. I think it would be, as you say, like right off into the sunset. I think it would sort of be like the best possible goodbye for him. After what we've seen this season, I think it's been. I think after what we've seen this season, I think it'd be the best outcome. So I'm just thinking of what you said before, about winning the Conference League and the finishing 12th. What you said, Sloth, about the performances and stuff. I think based off of what we've seen this season, I think that would be the best outcome to let him go regardless.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would still let Moyes go if we finish 12th and got the Conference League. I don't want to say that we won't. I mean, David's saying here he needs to go. We won't get a bounce. We'll get a total leap forward. I don't necessarily agree with that from now. If we got rid of him,
I agree personally, just because I think the fact of the matter is, you get in a half decent manager, they're going to make those players play more to their strengths rather than trying to square peg their player profiles into something that doesn't suit and doesn't match them.
But that's not. I think it depends on who you'd bring in, because regardless of who we bring in, it's a relegation battle. At the end of the day, like the way we play, it's going to be systematic.
But also, on the other hand, you can say it's a relegation battle, so we can think negatively and go, it's a relegation battle. Or you can say it's a mini league of 10 games or 12 games. This right now is a tournament. You have 10 games to play and it's a tournament. You flip the mentality to, rather than being, we're in a relegation battle, woe is me, it's all shit, it's all bad. Turn and go, this is a tournament now. You need to win this tournament. You're playing against these 9 teams and you need to come out top of those 9 teams. And you need to go out. You're not necessarily going to play those guys, but you need to win that mini league. And you flip the argument off. Instead of going, you're fighting a relegation battle, it's tough. If we get relegated, this is now your aim. Your aim is to win this mini league against these teams. And that's how it should be, because you change the mentality. We constantly talk about players need to have a change in their mentality, they need to take some accountability, but then give them something to aim for rather than we're just in a relegation zone, we're fighting for our lives. Everything you say in that way is negative. Everyone has negative and feels pressure. You start saying, right, we're now playing a mini league, guys. We're now going to go out to win this mini league. We need to get this many points. Well, this is going to be our aim. We're going to now go for it. Each game is.
I mean, I don't know, but if they're professional footballers, like they know the situation. You can say what you want to them about a mini league. At the end of the day, it's a relegation battle.
Psychological burden.
But Frankie, if you're saying if they're professional footballers, if you're a professional manager and you can't understand that Paqueta and Fornals are not. One is not a winger who plays out wide. He did for a couple of times. Don't get me wrong. He did a couple of times, but naturally he plays in the centre. With someone like Paqueta, he said, "Oh yeah, we thought we were getting a player who would provide goals and assists." Well, I'm sorry, you're not fit to manage if you don't understand the players you're signing and you don't understand how to use them, because that is a manager's job. It's laughable that he has got these players and he is so rigid in his system, yet we're sticking behind him and we're going, yeah, but it's a relegation battle. I kind of get what Mike is saying in terms of you need to make it a tournament. I like that sort of approach. However, you also need someone who is actually capable to think, right, we need to set up in a different way every single time we play. And, I'm not saying we need to change formation, but what I am saying is you need to be slightly different in your approach. And I just don't think we have that with Moyes.
I'm not saying that I'm Moyes' biggest fan. I've said it so many times on this channel. He should have been sacked a long time ago. And the way we're playing is not good enough. And it's probably going to get us relegated if we continue to play that way. But I'm looking at it now that, like, in the next week, we're going to play 3 games in 8 days, 7 days. So if we give Moyes those 3 games, right, we've then got less than 10 games left in the season. Would you, if say from these 3 games we got 4 points, would you sack him still?
Yes.
Or would you keep him?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd sack
with
him.
9 games left.
And also, I look at it, right? We're 1-0 down. We're going into the final 10 minutes, and we're going, probably don't make a sub though, because it's still only 1-0. That's what we're basically saying. We are doing Moyes right now. By not wanting to sack him, we're basically doing what Moyes does every single game. He sits and goes, "Oh, don't worry, lads. We're still only 1-0. Don't worry, lads. We keep going right up to the 90th minute, then we make a sub." That's basically what we're doing. Like,
I didn't know you were from Edinburgh.
And we're sitting there going, let's not make a sub because we might get an equaliser, or we might go 2-0 down, or tell you what, let's not get an equaliser. Let's go. Let's take the 2-0. Let's take the 2-0, lads.
I understand. Listen, I understand what you led us at. Right, I slightly agree with what Frankie's saying to a point, though. Right, we go and sack him, and they bring in Warburton as temporary manager. No one's going to want that. Right, that's the fear I have. Warburton's just sitting there. Right, he's an ex-manager. He's an ideal replacement if Moyes was to get the sack.
He's an ex-manager. He managed.
Yeah. Yeah, but
he's managed. So
yeah, but Warburton's got a better CV than Nolan. Like, Nolan was a failed Leyton Orient and Notts County manager. Like, Warburton's got Rangers on his CV and a few others. Do you know what I'm saying? I understand what you're saying about Moyes. I get it. Yeah, I'm with you all the way. Yeah, Moyes needs to go. The problem is the players need to take some accountability also. Some of these players don't even want to be at West Ham. Certain people who are just running around. Like, there's a lot of contract negotiations where they don't want to sign a new deal. I'll name one, Ben Johnson. Like, whatever you think of Ben Johnson, he doesn't want to be here. Do you know what I'm saying? They need to come together and realise the shirt that they're playing for, and they don't realise that they're playing for West Ham United. Some of them.
Let's give.
Do they not want to be here, or do they not want to play under Moyes? Is the bigger issue.
They don't want to be here, stuff, and I know that for a fact. Because Ben Johnson, I'll say this quite openly. Ben Johnson had a 2-year extension on his contract, yeah, and he wants to get the same money as Cresswell. Cresswell's on right now. Now, for me, Ben Johnson is nowhere near Cresswell's level, in my opinion. In my honest opinion,
he was playing probably at the same games, if not more, than Cresswell, and was also performing at a higher standard than Cresswell.
But when you look at Ben Johnson and you look at other players like Kufal, who's on less money. It's a bit rich coming from him that he wants a lot more money. And the reason why Ben Johnson is still at West Ham is because West Ham had to force the extension to keep him here for another 2 years. That's the only reason why.
But also,
I would argue that's a whole issue with our recruitment. If he wants to leave, he's making it that his thoughts known, why is Moyes not going, right, Ben Johnson's unhappy. If he wants to go, he's demanding money. Let's get as much as we can for him and replace him. Why have we not got that lined up? And again, I go back to the recruitment. It is an issue every single season at West Ham. We're talking about selling Rice, and we have got. I've got absolutely zero faith that we're actually going to replace him well, and that's what worries me. You know, we're talking about Newman doing his job. Well, yeah, that's fine. However, if you still have Moyes at the helm of the club, a man playing negative tactics, but also using players incorrectly, there's no other way to put it, then you're screwed. We look at Antonio. People keep saying about, players not wanting to be here, or the attitude of players. Then he's a prime example of someone. It's, if you're in a relegation fight, why are you going on a podcast every single week? The irony is ringing, but why are you going on a podcast every single week and saying, I'm better than you? You're having a little debate with a guy who's sitting pretty at the top of the league, and it's schoolboy stuff. He made it clear in January with certain comments that he wasn't really up to stuff, or he didn't feel like he was being given a fair rub of the green that his lordship, our record scorer, deserves or warrants. Yet, he's not putting in performances. I don't know how many times I have to say it, and people go, yeah, but he's our record goal scorer. Our record goal scorer should be looking at around 20 goals a season. He is never, ever getting you 20 goals a season in the league. He's just not capable of it.
The only reason why Antonio's a record goal scorer because he's been here the longest.
Yeah, because we've utter dross. And when we haven't had utter dross, they've either been snapped up from us or we've had a manager who's incapable of playing. Look at Demba Ba when he came in. We were so inept.
Look at Dean Ashton as a prime example. Dean Ashton, if he would have had the same duration as Mikel Antonio, then he would have been a record goal scorer.
Yeah, 100%. But there's also this constant issue of, if you're recruiting players, why are you not playing them properly? Why are you not playing to their strengths?
I agree on that, yeah.
It's all well and good to have a system or to have a style of play, but if you're recruiting 30, 40 million pound players, use them correctly. Don't just go, well, I'm going to fit them into my system and they're going to adapt to me. That's just such a outdated and ineffective style of management.
Yeah,
I agree.
Let's kind of flip on to try and look at it a bit more positive for the rest of this season. If you could kind of pick out one player from now until the end of the season that you think could be the key asset into us staying up in this league, who would you pick out in that squad right now?
I'll go first. Naya Fagued, for me. If we keep him fit, we've got a chance of staying up. I do think, I know people say about Moyes, about the players and everything, but this season we've had horrendous injuries at centre half, like literally chopping and change. We've had Ben Johnson there, Bonner there, Kehrer there, but everyone there other than the two centre halves that we should have there, which is Zuma and Aguerd. If Aguerd stays fit, I've got every faith that he will deliver for West Ham. He has been a bit suspect in the last few games, and there's been a bit of a weakness problem there in the air. When balls are coming in, he's getting done. He got done against Ollie Watkins. He got done against Man United. So that's a little bit of a problem. But if we can get Zuma and Aguerd together for the 12 games till the end of the season, I think we will be fine. I really do.
Franzone, what about you?
I'm going to say Scamacca.
Yeah.
I think our problem this season has been scoring goals. If we actually change it a little bit and actually try and go for the game, get players a little bit closer to him, he will score because he's done it at his previous clubs. And scoring goals wins games.
Yeah. Mike, Christoph, what about you guys?
Go on, Mike.
To be honest, I don't think it's going to be any new lads because they ain't going to get a fucking chance. To be honest, I think probably the only chance we've got is if Danny Ings can start scoring goals, because that's the only flavour of the month that's going to get a crack at it with Moyes. Moyes is going to stay because, quite frankly, the board are spineless and fans are so scared of actually getting relegated that they don't want to take another alternative. So we are stuck with Moyes and we're going to be stuck with him trying to do square pegs. If he plays Scamacca to his strengths, Scamacca will be a huge player. And that also means then he'll be playing Paqueta to his strengths. This is the problem. When you play one of these players to their strengths, you're going to start them playing others. And the fact is he's going to keep playing Souček, who can't pass 10 yards after time. And it's hard to be positive. And I want to be positive. But the truth of the matter is, I don't really see anyone standing out. It's going to be a grind. There's going to be one player every now and then doing something. And that's how I feel about the club at the minute and the players, unless we're playing in Europe. Because quite frankly, no one's really stepping up because they're hamstrung, in my opinion. So it's really hard for them to ever step up in a game.
Sloth, what about you? One player?
I mean, it's got to be the spine of that spine of forward, centre mid and centre back. Now, picking one of them is hard. I don't think Moyes is going to change. If he does, I think we'll turn it around. But can you teach an old dog new tricks? For me, I think Paqueta's showing a lot of fight. He's certainly getting himself about. And if he plays, I think we create chances. We definitely look a bit brighter in terms of creating. I might annoy Frankie with this, but I think Bowen has well and truly underperformed. If he plays up to his strengths,
just want to put it out there. I agree.
If he plays up to his strengths, but if he plays up to his strengths, we're not even close to this position because he's finishing and he's scoring goals.
He was the one I was going to pick out as a player from now to the end of the season, because he is the one that can go and score us 5 goals now to the end of the season. Easy.
I completely agree. However, he needs the service and he needs the link-up play. But how many times do we hear that about a striker and people go, well, he should be doing more? It's completely counterintuitive. So if I'm going to pick one, I'm going to pick Scamacca, because he can create a goal out of nothing. He did it against Leeds and he got as a result. And I do worry that Moyes just isn't going to play him. I think if Scamacca gets played, he gets his confidence back and he scores, he will go on a run.
Yeah.
But he's reliant on a certain someone actually making decisions and showing a bit of backbone.
I think the biggest problem we have now is, we're debating about whether we should get rid of Moyes or not. And, we're now 50-50 up in the air. The problem literally is because the people that don't want to get rid of Moyes, including, well, not that I don't want to get rid of him, but I'm hesitant to at this stage of the season, is because I know what the alternatives will be at this stage. I know it will be what James says. It'll probably be someone like Kevin Nolan or Mark Warburton taking control for the next few games, see how it goes for 3 games. If they get some results, they'll just stick with them. It will be that kind of scenario, because it's too late to bring in a decent or a good manager that wants, no good manager really is going to come in with 9 games, 10 games left of a Premier League season, risk their career.
Unless you're going to get someone who is looking to prove a point or looking for a nice little pay packet towards the back end of the season.
And the problem is we know Sullivan won't pay anyone that sort of money.
Exactly,
that's the problem.
But is he really just going to sit back and say, if say Krasinski comes to it or calls him and says, look, I know you don't want to sack him. This decision will be on me. I will pay for it. I will pay for his replacement. Let's get it done.
I think the only time that they will sack Moyes if West Ham are cut adrift. If I'm being honest, when you look at the table right now, 1 win or 2, if we win our 2 games next week, we're massively out of trouble for now. But it looks a lot healthier. Do you know what I'm saying? And I do think next week, I know I've said it on here and I've said it on my stuff. Next week's massive. Because if it goes one or 2 ways. We either get out of trouble and we look a bit more, we can breathe, or we're right in the mix and they've got to make a decision, which is dangerous.
Where I would disagree, mate, is that we're talking about if we win 1 or 2 games. Well, we're playing one of the teams around us. They're not all against teams who are in the bottom. They're not teams who are in the bottom 5 or 6. If we get results against them, yeah. However, we've seen that teams around us are picking up points, and they're picking up points against top sides. If they pick up points like we're hoping to do, we're still in that mire.
But look at it like this, Sloth. We play Southampton, right? So then that could be 3 points gained on them, and then we play Newcastle when others aren't playing. It's one of our games in hand on some teams around us. So that is
if Newcastle, if we get a point against Newcastle, I think everyone would be happy with that. The way they're playing at the minute. Do you know what I mean? As long as we don't lose the game, right? If any point is a positive one against Newcastle at home, right? Especially if we've just beat Southampton. We could go and beat Newcastle. I don't really look at the Newcastle game as the game. I look at the Fulham game. I look at them without Mitrovic. I look at them without Silva, and I think, you know what, they can be got at all day long. They're a good side, but so are we. I agree with the manager side of things. Don't get me wrong, but you're literally what is happening with West Ham at present is we've left it so long. We're between a rock and an hard place. On one hand, we get rid of him. We don't know who we're going to bring. Right, I remember, and probably other lads will remember this, but in 2003, we got rid of the manager and we brought in Trevor Booking, yes, it was good, but in the end, he did send us down. Like, it was one of them moments where, okay, like, we need that step. Now, at present, if we was cut adrift, I would go, you know what? Yeah, he's got to go and get someone. I think you would know more in 10 days. Like, in 10 days, you will know where we're really at. If we come out of them 3 games with positive points, that to me is six points or more, then for me that's a good return against them 3 teams. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
I think the worrying thing is if we're cut adrift, realistically, who's going to take that job? I think that, you know, I might get a bit of criticism for this, but the only people who are really going to take that are West Ham fans. You know, I do actually think that someone like Will Still would still take the job. If we went down and you said to him, someone who is a fan, you've got the chance to come in, take us back into the league, and we'll give you however much money for next season, then I think he would probably still take your hand off. However, if we're cut adrift and you're going, who can we get in? Your window's so small. Your list is just a few names, and it's incredibly hard to get someone in who pretty much knows they're going down. Yeah.
See, the thing is, I agree. I do. Listen, if it was 6 games ago, I'd be with everyone saying, right, he's got to go, right? The problem is now is we've left it for so long. We've had a 2-week break. If there was a time to sack Moyes, you'd have sacked him in that 2-week international window, FA Cup window, and got someone in. The problem is, I think Sullivan looks here and goes, Moyes is a cheap option. If he keeps us up, that's good enough. And whatever he does in the conference is good. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't agree with it, and I'm with all yous. Like, I'd sack him tomorrow if I had the chance. But the problem is, do you take a risk on someone who's inexperienced in someone like Noland or Warburton? I wouldn't want Warburton in charge of West Ham. I really wouldn't. I think that would be a disaster, and that he would send us down. I think at the minute we're in a situation where we've left it for so long, we've got no choice other than to stick with him until the end of the season, which is bad, really. I don't want Moyes here, and I would agree with anyone. But what else can you do? What else can you do, really?
I think our home form is going to be what's keeping us up. If our home form is good and we start picking up points at home, we'll stay up, because our away form has just been absolutely awful this season. I think we've won 1 away game in the league. Like, it's going to be tough for us to pick up points on the road, because like we go to Fulham, it's a game we can probably go and win, but will we? I doubt it. I'm probably more confident at Newcastle at home than I am Fulham away. And then we've got, away games at like City, Brentford.
If you want, I'll reel them off to you. We've got Arsenal after that. Then we've got Bournemouth. Then we've got Liverpool at home on the Wednesday. Then we've got Palace. And then we're in May, and we've got Manchester City, Manchester United, Brentford, Leeds, and then Leicester.
Yeah,
and that is them in order.
The only away game there I'm looking at is Bournemouth, and even now they're kind of getting a bit of a bounce. So I think our home form is going to be what it is. We've got some tough games at home, and like you've mentioned, James, so many times, these next 3 games are crucial.
Yeah.
Like they are absolutely massive for us, because if we get through that 3 games that week and we've only picked up, say, 1 or 2 points and we haven't won a game, we're in big trouble. We've left it too late at that point. And then regardless if we sack a manager or not at that point, I think it'll be too late. And I don't think they'll bring in anyone good enough to be able to, keep us up. So let's kind of end on... Go on, James.
Before I make a move, because I've had to make a move in a minute, I agree. Yeah, and it also affects the Conference League also. Because if we go into the conference game against Ghent and we need to beat or get something against Arsenal on the Sunday, then that's the fear I have with West Ham at the minute, is the conference could go completely out the window. Because what's more important, the Conference League or the Premier League? I think we all know the Premier League is where we want to be. You know what I mean? We don't want to be going to Barnsley away or Rotherham away on a cold Tuesday night. Do you know what I mean? So, like, for me, the next 10 days is massive for the club, mate. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think if you sack him after Southampton, I think it depends if we get hammered against Southampton. If we get hammered against Southampton, then I think maybe he has to go. If we manage to get a win against Southampton, hopefully it eases the pressure. But that week, if we was to sort of calculate that week as a whole, we get 6 points in that week, I think we'd all be happy. More than 6 is great. Less than 6, I think we're in trouble. I think it's that clear cut for me. So
yeah, I would agree.
I'm going to make a move, lads. But thanks very much for having me on. I really do appreciate it as always. And look after yourselves. Keep the faith.
Pleasure.
And you, mate.
Take care, man.
James. Nice one, mate. And then there were 4. Yeah, let's wrap it up anyway. There, let's kind of just conclude with how you guys think the next few games are going to go. We've got 3 games in a week. How many points you get? How many points we getting? Let's get your predictions.
Go on, Fanzone.
Yeah, let's go Fanzone first.
I think it's sort of this, as James said, it's sort of make or break the next week, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think we will beat Southampton. It won't be as easy as what I've seen some people saying it will be, believe it or not. The Newcastle game, it's a tough one because I think Newcastle they're quick starters, aren't they? So I think if we tend to do what we normally do and start slow, I think it could be a long night. But we shall see. And then Fulham away, I don't know, without Mitrovic, without Willian and Silva, you don't know. But I was thinking to myself, I was going to say earlier, when James was listing off them pictures, there is a surprise result in there somewhere, I think. Don't know where it's going to come from, but there always seems to be one in relegation scraps. So I think we will pick up a surprise win somewhere, but I don't know where.
Yeah, it's just so hard to even think like that at the moment. You would expect us to beat one of those teams like United or Liverpool, even Liverpool at home in those kind of big games. But just the way we're playing, it's tough to kind of be positive on that. But Mike, Slough, how many points do you think we're going to get from these next 3 games?
I'm not going to predict how many I think we're going to get. I just don't see the point. I hate predictions anyway. The only thing I'd say, we need 6. That has to be the minimum benchmark. If we don't get 6 or 7 points, then I think we seriously have to reevaluate. Regardless of the options, I think we seriously have to reevaluate if we are not going to do that. And again, if we lose heavily against Southampton, we have to reevaluate. Not just lip service, we are looking at the issue. I mean, thoroughly look at it and make a decision one way or another. If we lose to Southampton and decide to stick with him, just stick with Moyes for the rest of the season. Come what may, there's no point after that. If you're going to make that decision, if we lose that game, we lose it heavily, and they decide to stick with Moyes, regardless of what happens, you stick with the manager. It's pointless to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, from a points point of view, we need 6 minimum, in my opinion, because that will help us to move away. That will give Moyes a bit of breathing space. That will mean fans will take a breather, and it may also allow him to relax some of his control, some of his tactics, because we are not in a position where we, if a defeat means that, we're back into it. So he may then feel that he can relax a little, because then a win means that we create distance, and therefore potentially going for a game a bit more than what we have is viable, because there isn't the risk of, well, if we lose, we're immediately at the bottom of the table or in the bottom 3.
Yeah. Slough, what about you?
I think, as Fanzone said, I think it's going to be a far harder game against Southampton than people make out. They scored 3 against Spurs, and when was the last time we scored 3 was against Forest, and they are not anywhere near the caliber of a Spurs. So I'm kind of worried, but I think we might just edge it. If we don't, I do think he has to go. I'm going to be slightly positive and say I think we might get 5 points from the next 3 games. I can't see us winning 2. I'd love to be proven wrong, but if that happens, I don't think we sack him. I think we do stick with him for the rest of the season. And yeah, look, nobody wants to be near the relegation zone. I would love for Moyes to turn it around, and I've said this time and time again. I would love for him to really push us forward, but unfortunately, I think if you lose these games, you have to make a change. You have to. Just purely from a business point of view, if anyone at that club, anyone in the decision-making seat, whether it's Brady, whether it's Sullivan, are sat down talking about whether they should keep him, you cannot have that decision and just go, yeah, let's give him another week, because there's hundreds of millions of pounds at stake. And yeah, I think 6 points would be a real would be a sign that he's going in the right direction. But again, let's just watch those performances and see.
Yeah, I think, like you guys have mentioned, Southampton's going to be a tougher game than probably people think. I know the Forest game at home was deemed a massive game, and it was probably one we deep down we did expect to win, regardless of feeling a bit more negative and less confident. But this one is a massive game. Like, this one is huge, because if we lose to Southampton, we go at least 19th, and like psychologically, that's just going to really hurt us. And yeah, I think I would agree. If we lose to Southampton, then he has to go, regardless of the other options that are out there, because you can't continue with a manager that loses at home in that kind of high stake game at this stage of the season. So yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. I mean, we've got 4 days now till the match, so it's just going to get more nervous as we get there. It shouldn't be such a nerve-wracking game going into this, but it is. Hopefully we can just kind of get behind the team, regardless of what's happening outside, and kind of on the pitch, we can give the fans give the players something as a boost, because, Everton are a team that are going to make it difficult for any team to go to Goodison Park. I mean, they beat Arsenal under Sean Dyche. They just beat Brentford as well. So they're going to be banking on their home form. And really, can we generate that sort of atmosphere and make it hostile for teams? I don't know, but yeah, we're going to see. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Fanzone, for coming on. Really appreciate it as well, and it's been nice to chat to you, and to have some debate over West Ham at the moment, and hopefully we can see a bit of improvement over the next few weeks. And this next week coming up with those 3 games with Southampton, Newcastle, and Fulham is massive. So it's going to be a tough one to get through, but we'll get through it. Hopefully we'll be going into the Conference League after that week, feeling a bit more happier about the league position and the points we've got. But that's going to be all for today. Leave a like on the live stream if you enjoyed. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. We're getting close to 500 subscribers, so that is massively appreciated. And lads, one thing for us left to say.
Come on, you irons.